There's nothing that can take your automotive hobby to the next level like being able to weld. Without it, you're at the mercy of someone else's ideas or someone else's labor, and once you can weld, you're on your way to building something crazy like this. I've been fabricating on vehicles for 20 years, and if I was going to start over today from nothing, this is what I would do. So the number one question I get asked is, what kind of welder should I buy? The answer is a 240 volt MIG welder, so that's metal inert gas. So it's got a wire feed and a shielding gas on the back, like this Hobart Handler 190 that I've been running for the past several years. This type of welder will cover 90%, if not more, of your welding needs. It lets you do everything from thin sheet metal on body panels to exhaust, up to 5/16 in a single pass. This particular welder can also run a spool gun, so I can weld aluminum with this welder. Someone is going to fight me in the comments over this, but 120 volt welders absolutely suck. Number one, they don't have the power for a lot of jobs, and number two, your garage isn't wired for one. So before you run out to the garage and count how many 120 volt outlets you have to prove me wrong, first go to the breaker panel and count how many circuits actually feed your garage and what the amperage rating is. Chances are you have a single 20 amp circuit that feeds your entire garage. That means outlets, lights, garage door opener, everything. And even if you have two of those, it's still not enough. A 120 volt welder, to run it on its max settings, needs at least a dedicated 30 amp circuit. You probably don't have one of those. So if you have to run a dedicated circuit anyway, why not run a 240 volt circuit? A 120 volt welder on a single circuit in your garage is going to blow the breaker and leave you in the dark. So if you rent, I'll admit, it's probably unreasonable to expect you to run a new circuit in somebody else's house where you're probably not allowed to do such things. But when I rented, I had a special extension cord. And what I would do is I would run from the dryer outlet in the laundry room out to the garage with my extension cord, and so I could run a 240 volt welder. You can do the same thing. So aside from a welder, you're going to need some other stuff. You're going to need a welding helmet or welding hood. Get one that auto-darkens. Lots of options out there. I'm not going to get into the weeds. Then you're going to need some gloves. So I prefer lighter gloves like this, not full-length heavy gauntlets. I find these a little bit more handy, but you'll figure out what you like. Aside from those things, you're going to need a grinder. So you're going to need this for removing material, for cutting, shaping, all sorts of stuff. You're going to use three main types of grinding wheels. So grinding wheels themselves are for material removal, and they leave a rough finish. Flap discs are also for removing material. They're like stacked sandpaper, and they leave a much smoother finish. And cutoff wheels are just for that, for cutting material. The grinder is going to work out at first for cutting material and pretty much all your needs. Once you get tired of that, because buying these gets expensive and gets old because it's kind of dirty, you may want to upgrade. Resist the temptation to buy a abrasive cutoff wheel like this. They are loud, they are dirty. I much prefer a Portaband, so a portable bandsaw like this guy here. This is a Harbor Freight Bauer version, but this is much more convenient, much quieter, much cleaner, much safer in my opinion. All right, so the best way I've found to teach technique is to either tape or hose clamp, in this case, a marker to the MIG gun. Start with a straight line. I'm going to do it up here on the board, but it's easier if you do it on a flat surface starting out. But what you want to do is you're going to practice making two different techniques. So the first one is a series of C shapes, which is what I think is easier for beginner welders to learn. So if you can rest one or both of your hands, like you see I'm resting my fingers here on the board, that will help. The other technique is a series of small circles, and you make kind of a spiral along your line. And this is kind of the motion you're going to make when you're welding, keeping a wet puddle, if you will, at the very leading edge of the weld of molten metal as you move along the joint. So this is something you want to practice going to the right. You want to practice it going to the left, you know, pushing the gun, pulling. There's benefits to both. I'm not going to get into the weeds of that. But you got to understand that there's going to be times where you're welding on something that you can't get in the perfect position to do one or the other, so you have to be able to adapt. All right, when it comes to settings for the welder, either the inside cover, sometimes on the outside, if nothing else in the owner's manual, there's going to be a settings guide. So if you're welding steel with argon gas mixture or straight CO2, depending on what wire diameter you're using, so I'm using 030 with straight CO2, and if you're welding, say, 16 gauge, so 16th inch, you're going to want to start with 5 and 40. I think for beginning welders, 1/8 inch is a good place to start. It's thick enough that you're not going to burn through all the time, and it's a pretty common size in tubing and angle iron and plate, so you'll be using it a lot. So let's talk about cleanliness here real fast. So you want to remove any grease, oil, paint, rust, and you want it to be dry, so no water or anything like that when you weld. So if it's cleaner, you're going to have a better weld. You're not going to have porosity. So if you have any kind of contamination on the weld, paint or whatever, it's going to bubble up and you're going to have holes in your weld. It's going to look nasty and it's going to be weak. So take your grinder, use a flap disc or a grinding wheel, and clean your material where you're going to weld. So once you've got your pieces and you're ready to weld, you can use things like magnets here, right? Steel is magnetic, but you can see that's going to hold it reasonably square. Now, one of the things I want to make you aware of is warpage. When you're welding, you're applying enough heat to melt metal together. And then when it's going to cool, it's going to contract and pull the metal together in the direction of its weld. So if I weld only on this side here, it's going to pull this material this way. Tacking is basically a point and shoot. And you're just going to make a small weld in 1 or 2 spots along the joint. So once you've got it tacked in place, you can check for square, you can measure, you can make sure this is where you want it before you go and fully weld it. For whatever reason, if the tab you've got tacked here is not perfectly straight, you can bend it by hand or tap it with a hammer, put a crescent wrench, tweak it. But this is your time to fix mistakes before they become really permanent and harder to fix. All right, so if your welds don't look very even, go back, check your settings, check your cleanliness, and keep practicing. That's the main thing. You want to have good penetration on the back side of the weld. So here you can see on this piece of metal, you can see where the weld is burned through, and you got a heat affected zone along the whole thing here. So this should be a nice, strong weld. I purposely welded only on one side to demonstrate the warpage. This has warped at least 1/8 of an inch out at the top. So because the heat pulled it, it warped this way. If I weld on the back side of it, it will straighten it out a little bit, but not completely. There are techniques, and I'm not going to get that far in the weeds here on how to reduce warpage, but just be aware it's going to happen. So as a beginner, one of the things I want to caution you about is a cold weld. And that is where you weld material with too low of a setting, and it can look good. The weld can look pretty decent, as you can see here, but it's not strong, and I'll show you that. So one of the characteristics of a cold weld a lot of times is it's piled up high. So over here you can see that it's piled up really high. The weld is really proud. It's not very big. If you look at the back side of it, you can see the heat affected zone. I mean, it barely turned blue there. Whereas the back side of this one, you could see the base material melted all the way through. So here's the problem with the cold weld. So yeah, you can see this is the problem with the cold weld. A properly welded joint, the base material will fail before the weld. So this should break along the edge there, not the weld itself. So if you're welding consistently on good clean material with the right settings, it should sound consistent and should sound like sizzling bacon. If you're having trouble by burning through, go back and check your settings or weld a little bit faster. If you're welding a little slow because you're new, turn the settings down a little bit. Because you're moving slower across the material, you're going to be applying plenty of heat anyway. And when you're practicing, be sure, don't be afraid to try to break some of your welds and be destructive with it. All right, so once you've done some practice welding and you feel confident and you're ready for your first project because you're bored, build a welding cart. So this is another thing that someone's going to argue with me on the comments about. They're going to say I can go buy a welding cart cheaper from Harbor Freight than I can possibly build one. I don't care. You need the practice. You can build something that's useful, but it doesn't really matter. Before you go welding on your car, trailer, whatever, build a welding cart. This is one I built out of free material. It was literally bed frames that I got for free. If you can't build a welding cart, you have no business welding on any vehicle or building anything else. So if you're thinking about getting into welding, I hope that helps. If you're an experienced welder and you think I forgot something important, put it down in the comments below and we'll discuss it. If you have any questions, put in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Once again, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and we'll see you next time.